Greg is like the stereotypical pinnacle of businessman. Welcome to the On the Edge podcast with your host, Scott Groves. You're a little bit older and wiser and a little bit more gray hair. And reading your bio, I know what an exceptional man you've become and the things that you've accomplished. But what was it about you at 30 that these people saw, or 31, that these people saw something exceptional where they would put you at the helm of this multi-$100 million empire? It's like, again, I'm sure you're a wonderful guy at 31, but if I win $500 million tomorrow on the lotto, I'm probably not hiring a 31-year-old to manage it, right? Like I want that older statesman, and even if it's just perception versus reality, I want somebody that's been through a few different economic cycles. Like, why you? What was special about you? And that's a weird question for you to answer because I'm sure you think highly of yourself, but I think people would want to know how did you get this at bat at 31 years old?
Yeah, it's I guess the answer is I'm really quite charming. No, I'm only kidding. That's intended to be a joke, although I am charming. Probably a number of things. I mean, the team at the office I had just started working in a year's time was shifting. I mean, one person wanted to go out and run his own bank, and another was decided to work with another family, and another was changing career. And yes, my age was young, but I had some pretty advanced experience with major, at that time, regional bank, now a national bank. And I had excellent training, and I was quite articulate on business issues. And maybe above everything else, when I spoke to the family or members of the family, I didn't mince any words. I mean, if I saw that things weren't quite right or things could be improved upon, or maybe there was some wasted overhead here or there, and I went out to the business points that they owned, and I looked at these businesses, and I took the time, besides just doing financial and bookwork and tax work, I mean, I actually went to the businesses and met the people running the businesses in the family's enterprise and brought back my perspectives and thoughts about how those businesses could be more efficient based on my 5 years in commercial lending and 2 years in public accounting, having worked again with a lot of commercial businesses. And I guess they found truth and integrity, but they also found persistence that I really had thought through what I was talking about and was ready to move forward with a plan to execute. Now, that's a whole nother story, for a 30-year-old to start executing a plan of change with a 50-year-old or a 60-year-old who's in cement boots with the business that he's been running and has changed hands a couple of times, and now it's owned by this family office. So, I kind of got put in my place as being a little uppity by certain people in the organization, but the family at the end of the day makes the decision, and it's their investment and it's their money at risk. So, again, if we found tangible ways to improve a business, whatever that might be, chances are I would have the full faith and support of the family behind me. And we had some very positive experiences early in my career. And so, we just, momentum and inertia are very powerful forces, right? And so you have a couple wins, what the taste of victory is, you start moving forward with a little more confidence and a little more bounce in your step. And pretty soon, as I said, we were buying businesses all over the place and crossing industries into chemical, insurance, real estate, aviation. And so the core of the business was always banking, commercial banking. Little did I know when I left my original starting job in a bank, thinking that maybe someday I could become a bank president, but probably not. Now I had, quite a few bank presidents reporting to me.
Hey, this quick interruption is brought to you by me, Scott Groves, the host of the On the Edge podcast. This podcast is brought to you by me. I'm a loan officer who can help you with a mortgage in all 50 states across the United States. I also coach loan officers. So if you are a home buyer who's looking to get a mortgage, if you're a realtor who's looking to partner with an awesome loan officer, or if you're a loan officer looking for coaching, get in touch with me. It's those sources of revenue that allow us to produce this podcast and get out a new episode to you every week for the last couple of years. So if you're looking for a mortgage, if you're looking for a mortgage lender to partner with, or you're looking for a mortgage coach, I'm your guy. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming. When we talk about your book, who's the avatar that you want reading your book? I think it's I think it's normal. You get to a certain age or a certain wealth or a certain level of success. Like, you want to impart that knowledge on the next generation. You want to take people like Qasim under your wing in order to mentor them. Who do you hope reads your book?
That's an easy question. As we've touched on here, the book was a gift from Qasim, and I had known Qasim since 2005, 2006. And I would say that there's been a fair bit of mentoring going on, but sometimes the mentee becomes the mentor. So that is the case with Qasim and I. And what he asked me to do a number of years ago was write a book. He said, you really could mentor more people, but there's only so many hours in the day, but we're in a digital world. And maybe if you would write a book, we could get that book out to people that are looking for some advice, some counsel, maybe some comfort, maybe to build a little confidence, maybe to try and figure out what skills they need to build in order to be successful in a business, and how to really tackle problems and do it with integrity and responsibility. And I never got around to doing it. He gave me a beautiful leather-bound book and a pen, and I never got around to do it. There's a side story I'll come back to. So we put this book together, and he gave me the gift, and the company Scribe had the resources with editors to assist and support the book, and graphics arts and all the rest of it. And I've had so many people that have read the pre-release of the book come back to me and say, your experiences, although they're unique and different to you, are much like my own in my world. And I'm never going to write a book, but I want to give your book to my children and to my grandchildren and let them see the wisdom of being persistent, being truthful, being broad-minded, having failures. Let the failures teach you. All those messages. And, I'm 72 years old, right? So a lot of the guys who are reading this book are in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and they're saying, dang, I could write that book. I say, yeah, go try and write a book. It's a lot of work. Right. And I never would have done it if Qasim hadn't nudged me in this direction. So we wrote the book, and I would say the book really could be for anybody that's got some real challenges in their life, and we all do. And some have impossible challenges. And many of us have challenges that we could manage through, but maybe we give up a little too soon. Maybe we quit too soon, or maybe the environment around us pushes us to just abort the mission. And that's what this book is about, is don't abort. Look at that door. Look at the keyhole. Look at the light coming through the keyhole. Ask yourself, are you really going to walk away just because your key didn't work? You tried a key and it didn't unlock. Look at the light coming from underneath the door. Go around the other side of the door and look at the door from the other side and the light coming through, and look above the door and the side panels on the sides. Come back around. Maybe you think about it. Maybe you'll find that key. Maybe it'll just happen.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're trying to convey in the book.
What are a couple lessons from your book for that person that feels, maybe rightfully so, or maybe it's just a story they're telling themselves, but what are a couple of lessons from your book for that person that feels like the deck is stacked against them?
Well, if they have the feeling that the deck is stacked against them, then chances are we need to change the feeling, right? Because we all have issues and problems to deal with. And as I said before, some of us have insurmountable problems, and we are blessed and fortunate to be in the United States. There's no question about that. I think that if people would come to the question of challenge with a positive attitude and avoid the negative attitude and the negative attitude of others, who will always heap their negative attitudes upon us. It's just human nature. I mean, our body is like a vessel, and we have to tip all the negative stuff out to make room for the positive stuff. But if we can get through a bit of positive affirmation, and then maybe find a mentor, and maybe it's someone in our family, but maybe not. Maybe it's an uncle, maybe it's a neighbor, maybe it's a friend of a friend, who we envision has perhaps had some success. Not that we're going to model our life after that person, but that person has found a way to move themselves along on a path, on their journey, with some accomplishments. And maybe that person could be a mentor. And I would add that in the case of Cosm, setting goals. I mean, if we set goals that are unfathomable, they're huge, we just set ourselves up for disappointment. And with our dear friend, we had to learn taking small steps, have success, take a few more small steps, have success. Success, when you know it and you feel it, is very rewarding, and it's stimulating, and it creates momentum, and it creates inertia. And momentum and inertia are very powerful forces. We all deserve a win. We all deserve a success. And how we got that success is important too. And we talk about that in the book, because there's a lot of ways to achieve success, and some of them are not so good. But I do think that small steps, small goals, and written goals. I know that's an overused expression, but if you can't write it down, it's probably not going to happen.
Why is that so powerful? Why? Because I've read the study. I think it was a famous Harvard or Stanford study where they followed people for 30 or 40 years. And the people who actually wrote down their goals and looked at them from time to time, you know, if I write down, I want to lose 1 pound a week until I'm 190 pounds and, you know, 15% BMI. If you actually write that down, for some reason, I don't know what the science is, but why is that so important? I know it to be true from the studies that are out there, but do you have any idea why it actually works in practicality?
Yeah. And I think the multiple factor is like 25 or 30x more common that people that write down a goal will actually achieve it. And what it is, it's a written affirmation. It's a written affirmation. It's a statement. You can pin it on your wall. Maybe it's part of a visualization board of where you want to go and where you want to be and a pathway and how you're going to get there. But it's an affirmation, and it's a self-affirmation. So perhaps no one knows about it but you. But if you don't keep a focus on it and have a pathway towards getting that step done, you know that you have that failure and you own it. It's like buying a gym membership at Christmas time and we're all going to go in and get healthy. And then what happens in January and February? We've got the receipt for the paid monthly membership, but no one's in the gym. The gyms are empty. Yep. And we know that if we don't go, I mean, that's our own personal weight that we have to carry that we just gave up. And the book is not about giving up. The book is about achieving and moving forward and finding that way in our life and finding people that can help us. I mean, Cosmo and I got together in the most unusual set of circumstances. And I mean, we came from literally 2 different planets, and we each found purpose in getting to know each other. We each did for our own unique reasons. And, you know, some people might be surprised at who's willing to help them and who is willing to mentor them just a little bit. And that's all it takes is a little nudge, a little push. And all of a sudden, it's potential for great things to happen.
Speak to my 21-year-old son for a minute, Greg. You know, he's finishing college in New York in about the next 18 months. He's not quite sure what he wants to do, but he wants to work in a field that's satisfying, and he wants to get some more life experience. And maybe that means banking. Maybe that means sustainable seafood. Maybe that means opening the door on his own business and building a t-shirt empire. You know, he's like most 21-year-olds. He's finishing college and not really sure what he wants to do. If you were talking to somebody like that, you know, because it seemed very obvious to me that you had a plan in your 20s to get to where you were in your 30s to obtain the kind of wealth and success and financial stability for your family that you now have in your 70s. What's the advice you would give that 21-year-old who's kind of looking to carve out their path? You know, they don't know for certain, because I don't think most 21-year-olds do. Hey, I want to work in AI. I want to have an engineer job at Google for 10 years and then build my own tech company that's going to take over the landscape of mobile billing payment systems from a cell phone. You know, very, very few 20, 21, 22, 25-year-olds have that insight. What are some of the suggestions from your book about opening doors, unlocking those doors, getting more knowledge, and really figuring out where you want to put your life's passions towards? What are some lessons from your book you would give to, you know, my 21-year-old son?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, it's okay not to know. It's okay to be puzzled by that question. It's okay to not have that chart in front of you with all of its milestones and dates. Back in the 70s, early 70s, when I came out of college, there was a clear expectation that you got through school in 4 years, you had your career chosen, you were going to get to an employer, you were going to set your path, and then that was going to be it. And that worked for a lot of people. And it was more that it was the expectation put on them by others than it was necessarily what that person wanted to do. So I know many people that are my age or younger in the baby boomer generation that led very unhappy careers because they got stuck into this notion of expectation, and it was not their expectation. It was the expectation maybe of their parents or society or the economy or the schools and the way schools taught, that you would have your career and that would be it. You can't know what you're going to really be good at when you come out of school. And I hate to tell people this, when they come out of school, they really don't know too much. I mean, they've got the book learning and the grades and the credentials, but in terms of what are you going to do tomorrow in business or whatever the career path might be, you've just begun your learning. Your learning will be your life's experience. Your learning will be your interface with all of the people and the constituents and the problems and the challenges you're going to have before you. That's where the real learning occurs. I mean, you maybe build some common sense and practical knowledge in school, and it's useful, and I'm an advocate of school, but I know plenty of people that have not finished a college education and some that haven't even started it that are wildly successful, not just financially, but in their personal lives with their families and their motherhood or fatherhood or their parenting and whatever it might be. And they didn't have that education. I'm a strong advocate of college education. I think that in the book, we try and convey open-mindedness and self-awareness. Open-mindedness that any door that we may find, we get on the other side of it, there may be a whole nother world there for us. Self-awareness that we probably are better at some things than others, and we have to admit it. And we have to find reasonable challenges and acceptable challenges, and not challenges that are so great that we can't ever achieve them. I mean, everybody's different. Everybody has their own capabilities. They have their own version of common sense. They have their own limitations. And we can't all be brain surgeons. We can't all be experts in biology. So I think we start leaning towards where our interests might be, but we also have to be practical. Unless we want to live in your basement,
right?
We'll have to be able to make some money and provide for ourselves and maybe eventually a family and our livelihood. So I think that should be a part of the equation. We can't just live in the moment when we're getting into the job and the career and the financial and business pathway that we're going to go on. I love living in the moment. I try and live in the moment as much as I can, but we have to live in the moment in the future, in the moment ahead of us, when we have car payments and we have life insurance and we have housing bills, and we're not living in our parents' basement. And if we can get the idea that we're going to live in our parents' basement out of our head and start owning our own decisions and holding ourselves accountable for our decisions, I think we start holding ourselves accountable for what's going to happen and own it. Maybe we get a little more serious about our perseverance and what we're going to do and what's going to work. And maybe find that mentor, again, going back to people that can help us make good decisions, and then try and make the best decisions that we can. Will we make mistakes? Yes, they are our best teachers, as long as we learn from them. If we take our mistakes and brush them under the rug and say, wow, that was an odd situation, it shouldn't have happened, it happened because of this and this and this. No, maybe we own that mistake. I own plenty of them. So I think it's maybe a little different way of thinking. For me, it's kind of like common sense, but for a lot of people, it's not. And we have to kind of force ourselves on certain points to really give thought to it. And I would add, as I mentioned earlier, as we've been talking here about ego, it's a great friend. It can propel us. It can create momentum. It can also hurt us and disable us if it gets in the way. So we have to manage our ego. And we have to realize that people that we deal with have egos too. And sometimes they don't want to get rid of their egos. You don't even know if you're dealing with the real person or the ego.
Right.
Egos, having an ego talk to an ego is pointless because nothing good is going to come of that. Just a waste of time. But if we can be truthful to ourselves and know ourselves a little bit more through self-awareness, and then, try and build some trust with people that we can get to talk to us, where we can listen to them and build a little camaraderie and a little confidence, I think, that starts the building process of what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? And living the life, whatever the life might be, and this is in the last chapter of the book, And someone said this is in a Jimmy Buffett song, and I didn't know that. But in the book, we talk a little bit about our journey to a destination, or to achieve a destination, or to achieve a milestone. And clearly, at least in my life, the journey is the destination. It's not a destination, it's the journey. It's what we did, how we lived it, how people recall it, who we touched, in what lives, and how did we touch people's lives. It's looking back and having made good choices, and hopefully living long enough to be able to enjoy that.